Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 259 of the Note Coach podcast. Don't water yourself down for others. I'm your host, Suzanne Kohlberg. It is Sunday here. Sunday is officially my least listened to episode day. So I was like, perhaps we should make this Spicy Sunday. I read a quote. I've heard it before. Every time I hear it, inside I cheer. So I'm going to share it with you. It's, I will not water myself down to make me more digestible for you. You can choke. And I just love that so much because how often do we water ourselves down? Do we not speak up? Do we keep quiet? Do we get like the schoolgirl or schoolboy or small child energy where we just, children should be seen and not heard, and I don't want to rock the boat, and I don't want to disappoint people, or I don't want to make anyone mad. But what about ourselves? We're not including ourselves in the people. We might be sitting there really disappointed, mad, upset, uncomfortable, frustrated, and just seething with that. And on the outside, it's calm. I don't think I've shared this story on the podcast before. If I have, it's a repeat. If not, we'll see how it goes. I've talked about the pineapples before. I have in my backdrops. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm pointing at the things. If you are listening to this, if you haven't seen any of my branding, come check this out, Suzanne Kohlberg on YouTube. I love how I say if you haven't seen any of my branding, like I'm a visual person at all. Hello. But I have had my business branded in terms of me. Crappy t-shirt. Today's one is got a orca on it. It says awkward. I've showed it before. It's one of my favorite. Anyway, on my branding, there is a parrot. And shout out to Emma Vega Malta from Bespoke Backdrops and Branding. She did all the designs. Anyway, when I wanted the pineapples, that was my request. And then she wanted to balance it out. And she came up with a parrot. And at first I was like, yeah, I'm not the bird one of my family. Shout out to my sister Cherylee for listening. She has more birds than, like I could do a whole episode. Maybe one day she'll come on the show and do a, taking us around all the different animals she has. But anyway, I'm not a bird person. But Emma, the designer, said to me, parrots are unfiltered, irreverent, and mischievous, just like you. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, let's have the parrot. And I named him Peter, technically Pitta, because it's P-I-T-A, but Peter sounds better. And it stands for pain in the ass. Also just like me. Because, yeah, I'm a sweary fairy. I'm neurospicy, for those of you not familiar with the term. I have not been officially diagnosed on the spectrum. My son has been. The official diagnosis process, I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but in Australia, it takes years. There's so many assessments. But all this to say, on the process of having Casimir have his official diagnosis, more than one of the specialists we saw asked me, are you on the spectrum, or have you been diagnosed as on the spectrum? Because, a lot of the traits. And I was like, well, not officially. And they said I could go through the process, but I don't think as an adult, like to get the label, could do a whole other episode on labels, like sidebar, if it's going to help you, if it's going to make you feel anything differently, if there's going to be doors or avenues open as a result of that, like go down that path, have at it. But for me, I was like, the official label's not going to change my life in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to be months/years of my life and an expensive process. So I was like, no thanks, but I will unofficially claim the label of neurospicy, neurodivergent, sweary fairy, things that people don't particularly like about me. And that is okay. But there is a difference between telling somebody, like going into their space, and I've had this more than once. I would listen to you. I would watch you if you didn't swear so much. I would watch you if you took more care with your appearance. I would listen and watch if you had show notes, or if you had this, or if you had that. And it's like the equivalent of someone coming into my house and telling me how to housekeep. No. If that happened, I would not so subtly invite you out of my house. And all this to say, don't water yourself down for others. People are always going to have opinions, often unsolicited, about what you should do and how you should live your life, how you should dress and how you should speak, and so many other things. You don't need to listen to them, especially if they were unsolicited, unsolicited, can't even English when I get really spicy, uninvited, you don't need to. That being said, the caveat, if you go into someone else's space, like if I go to someone else's house and they're like, we don't allow shoes on inside, I will remove my shoes because that is their house. If I go and guest on someone's podcast and they're like, we don't have swearing here, it's a, it's not explicit podcast, then I will filter my language. But that is me filtering myself to be in someone else's space. That is not me watering myself down in my own space. Because if you can't be you in your own home, in your own space, where can you be you? It's like you're permanently wearing a mask. And when you permanently wear a mask, then you lose sight and touch of who you are in the process. And then it's like this chameleon effect. When I'm with these people, I act like this. And when I'm with these people, I act like this. And when I'm in this space, I act like this. Who am I anymore? So there are things that you're going to do or say or wear or be that are going to grate on some people. That's okay. That's got nothing to do with you. It's not even any of your business. Even if they're trying to tell you it is, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. People project all sorts of shit. I project shit. Like, everybody does it. We don't need to take that on board. We don't need to be less of ourselves to make somebody else more comfortable. We shouldn't have to make ourselves uncomfortable to make somebody else more comfortable. That is not a healthy dynamic, or is it going to result in a long-lasting relationship, connection, friendship, whatever it is? So all of this to say, you do you. And I remember even that saying, I love you do you. And one of my clients said to me once that when she hears you do you, she thinks it's like a polite fuck you. And I love always share stuff with me. So when I work with her, I don't use that saying because I know that she has associations with it. But in general, it's something that I say. And I don't ever mean a polite fuck you. If I was going to say fuck you to somebody, I wouldn't be polite about it. But in all seriousness, notice what it is that grates about other people. Do they talk too fast? Do they talk too much? Do they swear? Do they not have whatever it is with their appearance? And then question, why does that irritate me so much? Like for me this morning, I was working with my own coach and I was like, really showy people, like showmanship really irritates me. And she was like, why is that? What parts of you don't you allow to be showy? And I was like, oh, there's something to look at there. So when someone tells you part of you that they don't like, that you should be doing less of, they're allowed, they're entitled to that opinion, but that doesn't mean that you need to change anything. If you're happy and you're comfortable and it's in your own space, keep going. As that saying says, I'll say it again because I love it so much. I will not water myself down to make me more digestible for you. You can choke. Now, you don't need to necessarily get that printed on a t-shirt or walk around advertising that, but when someone gives you something that feels unsolicited or like an attack, or that you don't want to take on board, the same as if somebody comes into your house, you would subtly or not so subtly kick them out of your house. It's the same with your appearance, behaviors, personality. They can have opinions, and they will, and sometimes they will share them, but it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you need to change. You don't need to water yourself down to make other people more comfortable. Whew. I said a lot in like 9 minutes. So thank you so much for joining me. This is, what did I call it? I've already forgotten. Savvy Sunday? Snarky Sunday. There's so many ways I could do this, but Sundays up until now has been the least listened to episode. So let's see what happens, and maybe we can make this a segment. Send me an email, info@suzannekohlberg.com. What snarky, spicy, saucy Sunday things, and we'll see what I come up with for next week. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.